Hi everyone, Alaskan Ballistics here, and I am joined by...
And I'm AlaskanFrontier1 or Matthew, and today we're going to be taking a look at some 10 items for survival in the winter in Alaska.
Yeah, so I asked Matt up here, Matthew, AlaskanFrontier1, check out his channel. All right, I asked him up here, I was like, hey, you do a lot of survival stuff, and you do a lot of bushcrafting and all this stuff. Why don't you judge my bag and tell me how long I would live? So we were talking today earlier out shooting that 72 hours is about, if you can survive 72 hours, you can survive, right?
So the 72-hour rule, or the 72-hour kind of idea, is that search and rescue is going to be most active and most, they're going to be trying their hardest, I guess you could say, to search for you and find you within the first 72 hours. I know that the Alaskan State Troopers, that is kind of their cutoff. At the end of 72 hours, if they don't find you, they hand it over to a more dedicated search and rescue team, which will search for 10 days. But the first 72 hours, 3 days, is the peak to try to survive. So a lot of people may say, how long can I last? Or they try to get a pack or a setup that can last indefinitely. But it's really key that you focus on that first 72 hours and make sure that you survive. You don't have to be super comfortable. You don't have to be well fed. You don't have to have a lot of water. You just want to make sure that you're alive.
All right, so without further ado, let's dig in here and let's tell me, I use this both as like a survival pack, bug out bag, or whatever, and a hunting bag. I'll like switch things out, so there's some things in there. First of all, I have my 1022 takedown in here. Okay, so got that. I have the Rebel suppressor. I've got the paperwork with me, so in case I won't be arrested when the search and rescue team finds me, and I keep it put together in this herbalist stock because it's comfortable, and there's some minor return to zero issues with the 1022 takedown. They're not bad, but they're real minor. Like, you could get the red dot that goes out here mounted in the front sight and eliminate all those, but I want to scope for game and hunting, and this one does just fine. It's just a cheap little Nikon, and I have some duct tape on it so the turrets won't turn, but and then I don't have it loaded obviously right now, it's safe, but I do keep the magazine with 10 rounds in the stock, and I have a bag with about 22 rounds in it from the same lot number. I've noticed the CCI lot numbers will often give me totally different points of impact. It's crazy. So that's my first item, and kind of a bulky item, but when you have my disease, with celiac disease, and you can't just rely on mountain house food, you might need to eat that mouse or that squirrel or that something you can't catch. So having a 22 is there. So I'm just going to kind of go through my bag. He's going to tell me how long I should survive. I've got the Outdoor Edge System knives. For me, skinning game, this is probably the best thing I've used. And I've gotten dozens of cool knives for this and that. And once I get them dull, they're dull. Like, I can't sharpen them again without, spending a $200 knife or getting a really nice $200 sharpener or whatever. So that's nice. I don't have to carry a sharpener with me. I got 3 extra blades, and I think you can buy even more than that. It's easy to take apart. I got a poncho, and that's probably left over from my last hunting trip, but I got a poncho, and it's just there to keep rain off. It can be double as a shelter, which is more than likely how it would be used in a survival situation. Mosquito net. You gotta have a mosquito net up here or you will die. I mean, our mosquitoes don't have malaria. An extra box of 10 millimeter. This is 180 grain XTP. Normally my Glock 29 is on the side, but it's loaded, and I don't want to have it loaded in the video right now. It's unsafe. And got a spare mag for the Glock 29. I got some electrical tape, which I found actually sticks a little bit better than duct tape in the cold. Just the air. Not much. Neither one of them sticks really well in the cold. But got some warmers and toilet paper / wipes, Huggies, whatever you want to call it. You gotta, and those are unscented, so I'm not going to attract the bears in the summertime. And then I've got machete, my SOG machete with a saw on it, so I can saw logs if I need to. So certainly, it's a terrible saw. The machete's awesome. I can sharpen it. So my thing is I'll just hack things if I need to. If I really need to saw, I'm in trouble. And I've got an extra 20 round mag for the 1022. And down in here, I've got a whole thing of waterproof matches, just the cheapest ones I can find. They stay in their package, so they stay waterproof. And I think, there's a 6.5 Creedmoor mag where I was going hunting, so Bergara mag. And so I'm carrying extra fire starter there. That's unless I'm hunting. In here I've got. Start out with food. I have a real strict diet with the celiacs and IBS. No gluten, no dairy, no soy, no corn, no pork, no beans. All right. Some other stuff I can't have as well. So I found these beef pepperoni sticks at Costco the other day that actually don't have any of that. So believe it or not, we ate some on our shooting trip. But they would be in my survival bag, a full bag of those. And then in here I've got packages of rice to boil. I figured that would keep me warm and it would keep me fed, and it's got like salt and Italian seasoning in the rice and stuff like that, so I can attract bears during this. I've got a can of fuel, a good one, and then mostly in here I got some emergency blankets, and I would actually more think of these as shelters. Like I would tape these together with the electrical tape and make like a 3-sided, if I could, around in the snow, and have a roof in this, and then have an indention in the snow here, and have my fire over here, and the heat from the fire would come into the emergency blankets without hopefully burning them down. And so if you had it far enough away and set it up, so that I would consider that more shelter, to stay alive. So, and then I do have a jet boil and an extra thing of gas for that in there. And that's so I can boil my rice, and it boils pretty quickly, which is nice. To help build the shelter, I've got 550 cord. I have extra bottles of water, which I store in here so that they don't get, I got 3 of them, so that they don't get all messed up, frozen and all that jazz. They stay pretty well, do that. I got extra clothes, wool underwear, polyurethane, Under Armour type stuff. My wife bought me this, heated vest for Christmas, so I got that in there. I thought that would give you an extra 12 hours. It's supposed to give you 12 hours of heat, so I mean, if you really needed the heat, you could turn it on for a few hours until you got warm and that kind of thing. And of course, another hack, because I get sweaty in the one I'm in. As soon as you stop and you're sweaty, yeah, you're in trouble. So there's some other minor trinkets in here. I'm not sure. First aid kit. And this is just basic. There's nothing real fancy in here. Just tape, bandages, gauze, Q-tips, scissors, some gauze that's older than you in there, that I need to replace. And let's see. Over on this side, I've got extra 22 ammo. I think that's from the same lot number. You'd have to be crazy not to put that in there. And I've got gutting gloves. What else do I got in here? This one's, I've got my light, my headlamp. So, all right, A to B, A, B, C, D, E, F. How about an F am I? All right, what would you grade this at?
Well, it's definitely a really purpose-driven pack. I think there's a lot centered around hunting, but you do have a lot of your bases covered. Whenever I think of survival, I think of the 5 and 10 C's of survivability that Dave Canterbury talks about. And we can go into more depth, or my channel covers that a lot. But essentially, that's your cutlery, your cordage, your combustion, your cover, and your container. And you certainly have all of those covered in here. So I would say that it's probably a B, maybe a C+, because one thing that I look for in survival, and I talk about a lot, is with combustion. Combustion is always a bit of a trick. And so I notice you have matches here, but that's the only kind of thing that you have that.
Somewhere I had a cigarette lighter on me that I was going to put in there.
Yeah. So you have a lighter and matches. I do generally recommend having 3 methods, and one of my favorite methods being a ferrocerium rod. And not to say that matches are bad or lighters are bad, they're all good, but a ferro rod is something that's very basic, kind of going back to Murphy's Law. It's hard to mess this up because there's no moving parts to it. It's just a piece of metal that you can strike with a knife, and it will throw sparks and start fires. So that's a very basic thing and easy to carry, and very redundant.
I wanted to interrupt this video and say I do have a discount code with Blackbeard Firestarter. Go check it out, Alaskan, for your order. I do get a kickback. Thank you very much.
But aside from that, I like that you carry multiple shelter or emergency blankets for shelters, primarily because emergency blankets are very fragile. They can be broken, so it's nice to have multiple if one does get a tear, or like you said, to expand it and use it for a larger shelter coverage. I also like the poncho as well, because that plays into shelter in addition. So the one thing I would say that I recommend, even though I know you like your blade exchanging knives, one thing to look at is maybe smaller skinning knives or field knives, just because they're more robust. So a folding knife, if you try to baton it, does stand a chance of breaking, whereas this is, I guess, could stand a chance of breaking, but it's very low because these fixed blades are rather strong. And if you are using a larger backpack, you have the ability to incorporate more gear. Other recommendations, I would say, machetes do work pretty well, especially in more of the southern Alaska. But if you get more into kind of the boreal forest, like where I'm at in Fairbanks, you want to start looking at things like hatchets and saws, because we have a lot thicker, larger wood to work with. So if you're going to build a shelter, the wood that you'll be dealing with, machetes can't quite efficiently handle them. So you could cut down a tree with a machete. It will just take you a lot more strokes and it will take a lot more energy. Whereas a saw, even something like this silky gomboy, which can fit in a cargo pant pocket, can get a great deal of work done. So other things that I generally recommend and try to have people or encourage people to carry are things like personal locator beacons, especially for survival. This is an ACR. Remember exactly, it was a rescue link.
Is that what you put on your liberal friends during the bug out bag situation?
Yes.
Okay, I got it now. Gotcha.
But these are pretty handy if things do go wrong and you're not able to hike out or you're not able to rescue yourself. It's nice to have something like an ACR rescue link or a Spot or a Garmin InReach. They all do the same thing. They're all personal locator beacons. So that is something I strongly recommend for people. You do have first aid. You do have first aid covered pretty well, and I don't think there's any complaints with that. I mean, you could always go more extreme. You could have tourniquets and go crazy with like Israeli bandages and stuff, but realistically, you need stuff that is for minor injuries to kind of prevent infections and stuff like that in the field. You have a great deal of ammo, which I think plays into the hunting very well. And
I would actually call this a small amount of ammo myself, but
I mean, I guess for survival, it's pretty good. I mean, I like to think, 1 to 2 rounds per animal, and certainly have that. Maybe not so much for the defensive handgun, but yeah. So everything looks pretty squared away. I do like that you have extra clothes, like you mentioned, in the winter. If you sweat out clothes, it's important to either be able to dry those clothes very fast or exchange them for dry clothes. So, yeah.
All right, so why don't we go through everything that's in your pack, and let's see what an A+ lightweight setup would be. Like this is me like going hunting and got lost and now I need to survive. That's what this is.
Exactly.
But what is, like, if you're purposely going out with, or you're just going hiking and you get stuck and you have this pack, what do you do?
So this is some of the most basic stuff that I try to keep always on me. And so starting off with the gear that's going to be on my body. So usually I carry a knife. Now in my videos, you won't usually see this knife because it is a neck knife. So I wear it around my neck and I usually tuck it into my clothes. So you can't usually see it, but it is always there. And this is a Bark River Knives Bushcrafter. It's a great knife. I have plenty of videos detailing why I love this knife, but it's a basic fixed blade for general purpose bushcrafting and survival tasks. And once again, it's reasonably small, reasonably lightweight. It does have a ferrocerium rod attached to the sheath, as I mentioned earlier, because that's a basic fire starter that works very effectively, especially with a little bit of training. Next to that, I have a Silky Gomboy, and this is a 210 blade length, and it's a curved blade. I find that the curved blades go through wood a little bit faster. They might be a little bit more fragile, but they work very well. And overall, Silky saws are really a company that you can guarantee your life on, I would say, so long as, like I said, you know how to use them. And in my kind of in central Alaska, where I'm located and where I do most of my adventures, having saws to process wood, whether it's bucking wood down for fire or you're trying to size pieces of wood for building small shelters, even something like this small Silky Gomboy does a very good job. And I've used it in conjunction with this hatchet to build lean-tos before, and so I definitely trust it. Next to that, and this is a point where some people might say go with an axe, but especially in the summer and in the spring, in the winter, you might lean a little bit more toward an axe, but hatchets, I would say definitely don't discount them, because if you know how to use a hatchet well and effectively, you can get a lot of work done with a hatchet. So this is a Grand Forest Brooks wildlife hatchet, and even though it's very small for a hatchet, and especially for an axe, it gets a lot of work done, and it has a good weighted head and a very effective grind. Once again, I won't get super specific, but when you are processing larger wood, not necessarily felling full-on trees, when you're processing wood that's anywhere from 2 to 4 inches in diameter, and especially if you're limbing it, kind of just trying to shape it into what you need, this hatchet can get that done very effectively and very efficiently. So next we're going to look at my container, and this is a Vargo titanium bot, and it's called a bot because it's a bottle and a pot, so it has this kind of screw mechanism. You can set it, and this thing is super versatile. You can carry water in it. You can also use it to cook food. You can use it in many different ways, and I like this system because you can put it over a fire. You can put it on things like an MSR pocket rocket, and it'll do great in those ways. And being that this is titanium, it is super, super lightweight.
I'm sold already. I'm sold on it. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I don't love about the Vargo bot is the price tag. But aside from that, I have had this thing for about, I think, 4 or 5 years now.
So what are they, like, what, 150?
They're about 130, 120, but they are full titanium. If you want to feel how light that is.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, that's like 1/3 the weight of my stove thing.
Mm-hmm.
My jet boil,
Yeah.
1/3 the weight or so.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's very handy. I definitely love having that thing. And I have lots of Nalgene's plastic and stainless steel, and I always end up going back to the Vargo bot because of its weight and its versatility. Like I said, it is a bottle and a pot, kind of weird hybrid, but it works well.
Babe, are you listening to this? Christmas. All right.
Okay. So some of the last things, this is my personal survival kit. I've gone through a few iterations of this, but this is what I try to always have on my body. It's something that's reasonably lightweight and reasonably compact. It's based around a Maxpedition Janus pocket extension, which is this core black thing. Underneath it, I have a personal locator beacon, which we talked about. I love having a personal locator beacon as a form of a fail-safe if everything goes wrong, if you just need to get out of your situation, having some form of a personal locator beacon. So any personal locator beacon, whether it's a rescue link or an inReach, they all work great, and it's something to have that's important. So in this kind of slip here is my first aid. I'm not going to get into it because it's a little bit of a trick to put it back, but it's the same basic stuff that you have, Band-Aids, alcohol prep pads, gauze, just stuff for basic wounds. If you cut yourself with a knife, this isn't necessarily going to handle gunshot wounds, but it's just designed to be multi-purpose and to fit into many roles. If I'm going to be carrying a gun, then I'll take that into account. So inside of here, it's more along like what you have. Granted, I do have my 3 different fire starters in here. So I have a ferro rod, I have a lighter, and I have matches as well in a waterproof container. So those are my 3 methods of fire. Like I said, I'm a really big advocate for having several fail safes because fire is the #1 key, especially in winter survival. I mean, warmth, if you don't have warmth, you die within hours. And so you can go days without food, you can go days without water, but if you can die from hypothermia very fast. So aside from that, I have a smaller Mylar blanket, and I also have a larger Mylar blanket towards the bottom of this kit. And I would use it in a similar fashion, like you said, making it into a shelter, not necessarily trying to wrap myself with one. Wrapping yourself with Mylar blankets is really only if you are very critical, if you're going into hypothermia. You ultimately want to fashion a shelter above all. So similar to Chuck, I also carry paracord. Mine is a little bit less because it is a smaller pack, but I do have that as well. So the next thing is a flashlight, which you also have, which I think, yeah, yours is a headlamp, mine is a headlamp, but any flashlight will suffice. I think headlamps are the more versatile because you can obviously use them hands-free. So something like that for light is going to be important. I do also have multiple fire starting methods. This is live fire. It's not one of my favorites, but it is a reusable tinder, so you can kind of use it and as it goes, start multiple fires with it. Whereas things like wet fire, which is one of my more favorite fire starters, is kind of a one and done system. So
I didn't mention that I carry brim oil wipes, which are great for wiping your gun down with when they get snow and wet, and snow gets everywhere if you hunt in the snow.
Oh,
And then once you wipe your gun down, start a fire. I like to have a whole bag of these in this big bag, So I don't know how many times I've started a fire with these, and that's what gets the fire going and staying, is brim oil wipes. Blackbeard Fire is supposed to be giving me their kit, and so I can review it. So hopefully I can use that instead of. And I think they have a ferro rod in it and stuff. Discount code Alaskan. But anyway, I'll be reviewing it first before we do anything like that. So
yeah, so those are the most important things that I have in here. Of course, in this personal survival kit, I have some plastic bags and some iodine tablets for doing water purification in a different way if I don't have, if I'm separated from this. And there's some other stuff in here, but by and large, those are the most important things to carry in the winter and in general for survival. I mean, wintertime does complicate things and make some aspects of survival more urgent, but the basics of survival are always going to be shelter, food, water. I mean, these are basics for human life, regardless to whether it's summertime or wintertime. You're going to need all of these things. So my needs don't really change, or what I carry doesn't really change that much when I go into winter. It's just a little bit more priority towards fire, a little bit more priority towards shelter, because those are going to be your big things.
So what do you got in the big bag?
Unfortunately, that's all that I have. That's just, I packed all this stuff into here.
I gotcha. So that's a Maxpedition pack. You like it?
Yeah, this is a Maxpedition Jumbo, and I don't usually keep it too packed because it can be a little bit hefty for like a shoulder bag. So oftentimes when I am wanting to go on like simple day outings, I might throw a little bit more than just this kit, but usually I'll offset my stuff. So I'll throw like the hatchet in there, the saw in there, maybe a couple knives, and of course the Vargo thought in there. But yeah, I try to not keep too much stuff. Usually I am more of a fan of minimalist approach to survival and to bushcrafting and outdoors as a whole. So I definitely appreciate having a lot of gear, but I try to see where I can cut back and go as minimalist as I possibly can.
So I have extra clothes. Let me ask you this. You get stuck out somewhere, you built your shelter. Do you get naked and dry your clothes? Is that what you do?
That very well could work out, and it wouldn't be comfortable, but I think I could pull it off. Having extra clothes is a very fair point, and I think that is probably a better idea.
Yeah, I've tried to dry socks on hunting trips before, and it's like if you get 4 hours of sun, you're lucky in the spring.
That's very true.
Very lucky. And if you don't get 4 hours of sun, well, you're not going to dry it off. And I've dried them off next to campfires and stuff before. But I did notice one time when we were sleeping out, I was going minimalist, like you said, and I was sleeping in a Mylar bag for comfort, right? And I noticed that it wrapped around me. I had my hood wrapped around because I sleep on my stomach, and I had my hood wrapped around my clothes, and I was fine. I was comfortable, but it didn't let any moisture escape.
Yeah.
And so all of my clothes, by the time the next day on the outside, were soaked. And so it was pretty cold. Unfortunately, we got a caribou in that day and packed it out of there and rafted it out of there. So I think that was my 2017 video. If you want to see that, I don't think I was actually filmed all of that, but we were smarter than the time we almost died. But the time we almost died, I went out there and like everything was in my hunting pack, and I had a small pack with some water and some food, and forgot the matches in it, and we got stuck out there. And it's a long story that I've told on the channel before, but I should be dead. And I was, cuddling with a grown man and all that kind of stuff, which is not something I recommend doing, by the way. But we had to survive, and we both made it out and made it alive, and we were good to go. But it is what it is. It's not the best situation in the world, and that's probably the closest I've been to death in the wilderness. And like not just shivering cold, but like convulsions. That's when you're going into hypothermia, and you have to once those convulsions, shivers turn into convulsions, you're in trouble. You're probably in trouble before that point, but you're really in trouble then. So any word of advice, if I needed to get one item besides the bot, what would you tell me to get? One item out of yours, all of yours.
I would say looking at a ferro rod for fire starting. I know you have a few different methods. That's probably the first thing that comes to mind. Maybe next is going to be a more robust knife, something that's not quite a folder, but more wieldable than the machete, because the machete is going to be very hard to do some smaller tasks with, but you still want something that's more robust. Even the saw would be an excellent option, though. Once again, your environment is also different from my environment. I mean, where we are, like I said, the bulk of your wood processing is going to be done with larger tools. So the bulk of your wood processing is going to be done with larger tools like saws, like axes, like hatchets. So if you find that you can field and use a machete just fine, then there's no reason to go over to these tools.
Right.
So it's a little bit different of a situation or environment ultimately.
Can you see the saw?
Yeah.
So have you ever tried to get the antlers out of a caribou with this thing? Because it's really difficult,
Yeah.
So
I can imagine.
That's really lightweight.
Yeah.
It's a gomboy. Gomboy. Comboy would not be cool. Yeah. Yeah. So that's super lightweight. Yeah, I mean,
and it's very portable. I mean, it is the type of thing that you can throw in a larger pocket. This won't fit in just a standard jean pocket, but if you have a larger pocket, that will definitely fit well. So
yeah, definitely. Well, AlaskanFrontier1. Do you guys have any questions about Alaskan survival, that kind of thing? He's the channel to go to. Go over to his channel, give him some support, some likes, some loves. Find the videos on the bot and the Gamboy one or Gomboy saw. I can't even say it right. Gomboy. Go find that, and don't forget to buy a locator beacon so that when you have to bug out, you can put on your liberal friend's best car, best liberal friend's car. Yeah, can I say that aloud? But anyway, thank you for coming down from Fairbanks and long drive. You did some filming with Chook.
Yeah.
So we'll be looking forward to seeing you on Chook's channel, and we'll be, praying that doesn't give you nightmares and everything. So anyway, everybody, thanks. Go check him out. God bless. Take care. We will see you at the range.